Good evening. Such a delight to be with you again at Lagos Leadership Conference 2020. I particularly want to be with you physically, but because of the pandemic, that's why I'm broadcasting from the land of Her Majesty, the Queen of England. And I really want to say a big thank you to my friend and brother as well, Pastor Charles Pandy. What an amazing man. He has been consistent over years to help leaders, to grow leaders, to impact leaders through the Lagos Leadership Conference. And I really want to say a very big thank you to his wife as well, Pastor Bola. And I want to also extend my greetings to my brothers from afar in the United States, particularly friends of mine that we've been at the conference together, Dr. Emmanuel Ziga and Dr. Derek Samuels. And I want to say a very big thank you to all the friends who have worked tirelessly behind to make this conference an amazing one. And then to every other person who is part of this conference, the speakers, many of them, I salute all of you. It's interesting today that I've been asked to speak on this topic, crisis and innovation in challenging times. The way we will follow through today is very interesting. We will kind of unpack it theologically, and then I will take you through what does this look like in our today's context. And I'll probably get you into 5 points in how we can innovate through the challenging times. You know, in all areas of human life, we are faced with the question how to live towards the future in light of the past as it affects the churches, businesses, families, and lifestyle. It's a question that everybody is asking. Each of us as leaders will have to answer these questions without a shadow of doubt by the way we conceive the world in which we live around us. Interestingly, some will argue that everything has to change. You know, these are the activists. Yes, we are now in a situation, things are not going to be the same again. And others will say things must be kept the same across lifestyle, business, or the way we do church. You know, the truth is, neither is an option in the world where the reality we seem to have does not exist again. So theologically, the future and the past belong together because it's the combination of both that will shape our current present. So the traditional way of doing things which many hold very strongly and the innovation to change, the future must go hand in hand. We have to live within the eyes of the conservatives who want to keep the things the way things have been, either in the way we do church, either in the way we do business, and they just wanted to shape the activities of the present alongside the innovative thinking of those who says the future has to change. It's like a paradigm shift of being loyal to the tradition of the past and born in the present and with a radical openness to the innovation that will carry us into the future. Friends, nothing is new. The world have always been like that. Because the creation of the world that we live today came out of crisis. God being the original inventor, nothing is new. You know, God created the world we live now out of crisis and emptiness. The crisis begat an invention from God, thus leaving us to follow in a continuous innovation. Now, I want you to pay a very careful attention to what I'm about to say. There's a difference between innovation and invention. Don't mix them together. They're really very different. Invention is creation for the very first time. Now, innovation improves what is already invented or created. So what I'm saying is every single thing we see has already been invented. So what we are doing is we are innovating. You buy an old car become a new car, and then there's a new model, either it's a camera, either it's your phone. So they are innovating new ideas as things are going on. It's the same way God created the world. God created. All we are doing is innovation. How does the chair you sit on come into being? So God already created it. So God has given us an amazing wisdom, knowledge, depth, so that we can create out of what he has already created. So you have to permit me to explore this a little bit theologically imperative within the crisis and the invention before digging into the application that will be beneficial to all of us. Now, understand this. Let me explore two crises for you from the Bible. Crisis 1, Genesis 1:2. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. That was the original state of the heart that is now in form and shape that we find ourselves. The whole heart was in crisis, emptiness, void, darkness, formless. Then there comes the God of creation. In the beginning, God created. He invented a planet called the heart. Then crisis 2. God created the heavens. He created the earth beautifully, including man. But there was another crisis. Man is in crisis because he can't function on his own. He needs a partner to coexist. It's because God never originally created a female. It was man and all the animals. We read the book of Genesis. So God said, okay, it's not good for man to be alone. He had the animals. Then God thought to himself, actually, the animals is not good for man. There's a crisis here. So what happened? Genesis 2:21 to 22. So the Lord God caused the man to fall into a deep sleep. And while he was sleeping, he took one of the man's rib and then closed up the place with the flesh. Then the Lord God made a woman from the rib he had taken out of the man, and he has brought her to the man. You will agree with me that God's theological framework is a mirror of human innovation in crisis and in challenging times. So you ask me how we are created by God, and we are supposed to be God's replica, a creative God that created us so that we can be creative in crisis. A creative God that created us so that we can see what he has created and innovate on it. Because he's asking us to be fruitful so that we can discover and invent what has already been created by God. But here's the challenge to man. It is very easy to be passive when there is no crisis or nothing abounds to challenge our creativity. So as long as there's no crisis, everybody is okay. Things are well. There's no need to trouble anything. So our innovative mind then become dormant. But immediately crisis happens, then you begin to see the creative mind of God. It becomes alive in man. Crisis, without doubt, is the bedrock of innovation. Or rather, every innovation has emerged from a crisis in challenging times. The ability to innovate is directly related to our needs and challenges. So during the World War II, the American soldiers, they kept trucks and jeeps rolling even when spare parts weren't available. So there were no spare parts. The trucks and the jeeps they were using during the war, no spare parts. They were damaging. And they thought, we are in a crisis. We have to do something. Guess what they did? With their tinkering of jalopies and their garages. So people are going to garages, picking up iron rods, picking up things that they will never use, picking up old cars. And these young soldiers, they fixed whatever materials were on hand to create spare parts. So those spare parts were then used to continue to allow the jeeps and the trucks to work. It was in the midst of crisis that creativity came. What they thought was not useful suddenly became a tool for them to use to create something that they used for the vehicle. In response to the coronavirus pandemic, innovators are jumping in everywhere. Around the world, many companies have shifted to productions of hand sanitizers, face masks, all sorts of innovative ideas have come up. Plastic covering of the face, all sorts of innovation are all over the place. In Italy, a startup engineering company engineered 3D printers to create the valves used in ventilators to save patients. It was not long before valves from printers started to save lives. Now, can you imagine that? Can you imagine that 3D printers, valve from printers, were now used as ventilators? Why? Because of innovation. When you look back on the current health crisis, there is no doubt that it has resulted in a number of innovations. New drugs and medical devices, improved healthcare processes, manufacturing and supply chain breakthroughs, novel collaboration of techniques, traveling to work and meeting have reduced, with Zoom raking in millions because of innovation. Office buildings are fast becoming obsolete, as working from home has becoming the rife, is the new way of working. Virtual church has announced itself as the way forward in gathering in multi-sites and achieving the same results as having church in a building or in a congregated camp. There's an outcome for innovation, because what all these innovations and many more have in common is that they solve problems and create new vistas. The innovations are also driven by human desire to connect with other people and be part of the solution when things get very hard. However, there's more to the composition of crisis, as we have all experienced, which leads to innovation, than just creating an opening to solve problems. Crisis itself presents unique conditions for innovators to think and move freely with less hindrance in an effort to create a rapid and impactful solution. We have seen it in trying to find the vaccine for COVID-19. How things have moved freely. How there's liberty. Excuse me. How people have been working tirelessly without gagging, because there is innovation from one country to another country, from one chemist to another chemist. For us as leaders, this unique condition provides us with the opportunity to help our teams, to help our church, to help our business, initiate innovative templates in their service to whichever organization we serve from. Now, here are 4 areas to explore during the crisis to foster new thinking in our church or in our business. Number 1, very important, you have to focus on purpose. Focus on purpose. Every leader that I know of, their main challenge in a day-to-day life of a church or organization is to inspire engagement and commitment and generate energy toward the goals of the organization. That is the number 1 passion of any leader. But during crisis, it's possible now to have a massive spike in the energy exhibited by the people. Because crisis allows people to come into a new understanding. So you see energy from the people that you lead, from the people in your organization. Because during a crisis, it's possible now for those spikes to multiply, to be amplified. Ideas you never thought are coming from people. People are thinking, why don't we do stuff like this? But only leaders who can appropriately focus and direct the energy of the people towards a clear purpose. The key word there is you must have a clear purpose. In resolving this crisis, we'll find more than just a deep upsurge of energy and discretionary effort. So while everybody is getting excited, my God, there's a crisis, we've got to do something. We've got to try this, we've got to try that. We've got to try how people are going to come in, go out, how we're going to feed, all sorts of things. The spikes of ideas. But spikes of ideas are good. But if you don't have a purpose of where those ideas are channeled to, it's not impossible that you can dissipate all those energy. You are bound to experience a wave of new ideas. As individuals within the organization, we feel compelled to share their insights that they will normally keep to themselves. Crisis allow those who are normally quiet. They don't do anything. You don't even know that they have ideas. They don't even talk. But during crisis, things will be buzzing out of them. Why don't we do this? Because it's the opportunity to grab people together towards the focus of the organization. You are bound to experience this new wave because individuals will be compelled to share their thoughts and insights across dimension of so many narratives. For example, the Apollo 13 mission to the moon that exploded, that forced NASA engineers to innovate ideas to save the crew. I have this story. The leadership made it clear. Failure is not an option. So the engineering team rallied to design a makeshift device so the astronauts could survive the trip back home using only items available in the crew on board in the lunar module. So it was the crisis that made the people they would have been thinking of idea, what do we do? What do we do? How do we do this thing? We got to survive. And their leader said to them, failure is not an option. We will get back. And then such innovative ideas of individuals made them to land back safely. It has been said that courage is defined as when purpose overcomes fear. For each of us, crisis can create the organizational courage to take actions that will support our purpose, a mission that will be unthinkable in times of calm. The question for you and I to answer, particularly you if you're a leader here, these are the two questions. Are you and your team clear about your purpose? Are you clear about your purpose? Number two, are you allowing a thinking space and energy for your team to birth ideas? Because if you don't allow the thinking space, if you ever have the idea that you are the only one that can think, if you ever have the idea that everything must come from you as the Alpha and the Omega, you miss it. Because there are people that God has brought into our space whose ability to think and imagine will change the future of our organization. Number two, what you need to readjust, change management. You see, smart leaders in time of crisis get a fresh and outside perspective that will help the organization find the opportunities to innovate. A crisis often puts the spotlight on your vulnerabilities, on your problem areas that you have been ignoring, or things that you have been unaware of over a period of time. So when a crisis like this hits you, you are forced to confront the truth about your system, your process, and how they have been working. So places where things could have been done better become very glaringly obvious to you. And then all of a sudden, opportunities for innovation begin to stare you in the face. So for me, living here in the United Kingdom, example for me would be the crisis of the Black Lives Matter. It might not make much sense for those who are listening in Nigeria, but it's a big crisis here in the United Kingdom. So suddenly organizations who have been existing, who doesn't really bother to get the people of black or minority ethnic into their leadership team, into their organization or the policy and the guidelines, suddenly realize that we are in a crisis. Because the light is being shined upon many. So the Archbishop of Canterbury has to come out to say, you know what, as a Church of England, we are institutionally racist. Because why? They've been able to look from outside within themselves that, hang on, we've got crisis. So it's the same thing in this context. Are you able to look within yourself, inside, whether there are things that you need to change? I have served this role for many organizations, trying to help them to explore this and helping them to look inside. What could that look like in the future? Number three, unfreezing the organization covered in ice block. You know, my brothers and my sisters, most organizations, they are like covered in ice block. They are solid rock. They are frozen. As they grow, they have adding their structures to create predictability, presume efficiency, and stability. So even with the money they give, their spiritual attainment, their mental existence, everything is framed within a ice block. It's like they are frozen within that. And nothing can change this because that's what has put them like in a box. They're covered in it. But then, crisis changes all of that. COVID-19 crisis has upended the way we do church, fellowship, socialize, travel, and evangelize. The long bureaucratic overhead for approval to change is gone by allowing fresh thinking to be copied and to be applied quickly to address the challenges at hand. Many leaders who are open to new knowledge are seeing the unfreezing of systems by rethinking for the organization. For example, social distancing. What do you do with it if you are frozen as an organization? Restriction that has come to worship. What do you do with it? Here in the United Kingdom, they said, if you want to pray, you can't even pray. You can only pray solo. You cannot sing. What do you do with it? The outdoor evangelism that we go out, let's go out fishing. What do you do with it if you have been frozen? Restriction of vulnerable adults, where the older people cannot come to church again. What do you do with it if you have been frozen? And this is what this needs to do for us. We have to unfreeze the ice block that we have been put in. Number 4, crisis will demand agility and change. So the pace of ideas, decision-making, and implementation increases when you are in crisis. Any organization that is trapped in routine and bureaucracy will be forced to quickly create experiments and more experiments and continue to test until new normal is found. You see, how do you find your new normal? You're not going to find it because I'm going to try this and then I get the solution. Listen, the success of many organizations will be how many times you fail before you succeed. Never stop trying. So you fail, you try again, you fail. Because that's exactly what we are finding out in them trying to find vaccine for COVID-19. Many countries, many scientists, they've been trying, they've been failing. They've been trying, they've been failing. But does that mean that they're going to stop? No, they continue to try. So the same thing for us as an organization. The process of experimentation gives freedom to test different thinking. Okay, I've thought this way, it's not working. So you discard that failure. You learn and move quickly in a short time towards innovation. And number 5 is the upskilling. Times of crisis like this present incredible opportunities for upskilling in different areas of business and ministry. So the things that you ignore, I don't want to do that, you better upskill yourself. The things that you just think that that's meant for somebody else, you need to upskill yourself. Smart and agile leaders are sharing opportunities to experiment new technologies and approaches to develop people. For example, while the leaders are learning on how to respond to the crisis in real time, there must also be quick hit lessons, guidelines, and tips that can help them make the most of the opportunities for innovation that current crisis presents. So those who have previously seen pushback on virtual and digital-enabled churches are now seeing a window of opportunity to experiment tools because of their foresight in engaging early. You see, years ago, they will tell you that if you are online, you are observing devil. If you are online, you are not a proper Christian. If you're a virtual church, you belong to 666. Hey, what do we all belong to now? We are now online. We are now engaging with the social media. We are now engaging with all of that. So those who we kind of despised in the past, who have seen the foresight, they are now ahead. And there is no pride in learning from what they have done. In closing, there is no certainty about when the coronavirus crisis will slow down or end, or how we will all be impacted on the long run. But if we use this moment wisely, as an opportunity for innovating, for learning, and for growing, we will surely know that once it's over, we will have given our best to make some good out of it. Globally, we are dealing with a crisis. But it's nothing new, my brothers and my sisters. It's actually, for me, an opportunity to reinvent, rediscover, reimagine, and innovate ideas that will become ideologies and establish a new narrative for the future. My closing question to you, my brothers and my sisters, is this. How has your church, how has your business, how has your organization begun to innovate and adapt during this time of crisis? Thank you ever so much. God bless you.